The Psychological Significance of the Biblical Stories is one of Dr. Jordan Peterson's most popular lectures that he delivered in the early 2010s. In this lecture, Dr. Peterson analyzes the psychological significance of biblical stories and explains how they can be interpreted as instructions for self-discovery. Dr. Peterson is a clinical psychologist, a professor of psychology at the University of Toronto and author of the best-selling book, 12 Rules for Life, An Antidote to Chaos. The lecture is divided into several parts, each focusing on different aspects of the biblical stories. Here are 5 key takeaways from Dr. Peterson's. The psychological significance of the biblical stories. 1. The Bible stories are deep and profound because they are deeply embedded in our culture and psyche. Dr. Peterson argues that the Bible stories continue to hold a powerful grip on our collective psyche for a reason. They are deeply ingrained in our cultural history, and they address the fundamental questions that humans have been asking about themselves and their place in the world. As highly complex stories, they offer a way for people to make sense of their own lives. They explain why humans do what they do and why they must follow certain paths too. The Bible stories are archetypal representations of universal human experiences. Dr. Peterson also argues that the Bible stories are archetypal representations of universal human experiences. They are meant to teach us about the nature of being human, and to offer us guidance on how to conduct our own lives. They address themes such as sacrifice, suffering, rebellion, and transformation, all of which are part of the human experience. These stories help us understand, appreciate, and navigate life's challenges. 3. The biblical stories emphasize the importance of standing up to evil. According to Dr. Peterson, the biblical stories are deeply rooted in the concept of good versus evil. They instruct us to stand up to evil when we encounter it. He reminds listeners that even small actions can contribute to making the world a better place, and that it's essential that we are willing to confront evil, even when it presents a significant challenge. 4. The symbolism and metaphor used in the Bible stories is of great significance. Peterson believes that the use of symbolic language and metaphor in the Bible stories is of tremendous importance because it allows us to communicate profound ideas without being overly literal. He suggests that we need to understand the metaphorical or symbolic meaning of the stories to appreciate their psychological significance. 5. Biblical stories hold a great deal of meaning and wisdom that could benefit anyone, regardless of religious affiliation. Finally, Dr. Peterson is careful to point out that the psychological significance of the Bible stories can be appreciated by everyone, regardless of one's religious affiliation. He argues that the meaning embedded in these stories is valuable regardless of whether or not you believe in a higher power or an afterlife. As Peterson states, you don't have to believe in God to appreciate the insights that the biblical stories offer us. In conclusion, the psychological significance of the biblical stories. Lecture is an exploration of the psychological significance, archetypal representations, and metaphorical meanings of the Bible stories. Dr. Peterson's analysis of these stories is illuminating, and his insights provide a deeper appreciation for what these stories convey about the human experience. Ultimately, Dr. Peterson's lecture offers a new perspective on the Bible stories, one that emphasizes their real-world value as guides for human behavior and thought.